I'll call the meeting to order at 7:09.
Seconded.
And I'll wait on passing the minutes from the last meeting until we get everybody on. We'll do that at the end of the meeting, maybe. Anybody got any old business, or can we jump right into Joe and his and the DPW guys?
I can bring up an old question.
I only have one question that had to do, on one of your emails, Frank, you mentioned names for the new appointees. Do you know when do you want to have that? Like, when do they making that decision? Like, we're under no time.
At the end, last meeting. We can do that at the last meeting.
Oh, okay. So I wasn't sure. Okay, thanks.
They just had to be in by, I think, at the end of, there was a date where they had to be in by, so that's it. There's only gonna be.
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay,
Yeah, we don't have to worry about that till our last course of business for the year.
got it. Okay.
Bill, typically, I think that generally coincides with the springtime elections.
Got it.
Yeah, that's when the new year term would start.
Yeah.
If not with the election, at least with, July 1st.
Got
So,
it.
I don't know when they make their final decision, but.
Okay.
Hi, Tracy, you didn't miss much. We just called it to order.
Hi, sorry.
No problem. All right, we're gonna hand it over to Joe and Chris and Dennis and let them make their presentation.
All right, so would it benefit, does everybody want to start? We'll go through the updated worksheet that I sent out. I basically took the comments from last meeting, and anything that was touched, I tried to highlight in red. That way it was called out, what exactly was different. Do we want to go through that, or do we want to jump right in?
Let them do their presentations first, and then, I mean, they don't have to stick around, right? We can bother you for a while after the meeting and go from there. Well, whatever, I mean, honestly, whatever you think is best, whatever you want to do, but.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would go with that. Let's do the presentations first, and then we can deliberate.
Sure. All right, so for everybody that jumped in late, I apologize for the lack of video. We have a computer in the center of the room and we're all scattered around, so we're gonna join you together here. But I have with me Chris Pierce, DPW's building manager. I also have Dennis Fazio, Parks, Forestry, and Cemetery Supervisor with me. I'll start with probably turning it over to Dennis. Dennis will kind of give you an update on the request for the Toro gang mower. He can also talk a little bit about the sidewalk plow and some of his thinking behind that. And then Dennis can also touch base on the playgrounds. He's the main point of contact with the playground installer. So Dennis gets the information right from the source, and he can fill you in on some of the conversations they've had about the Woodville and then, potentially a couple other properties in town.
Hey, Joe, do us a favor. I don't know, everyone else, let me know. Whoever's gonna talk, can you put the microphone close to them? It sounds really echoey and hollow. I don't know if everyone get the same thing, but that's what it sounds like to me. Maybe just have the microphone closer to that person when they're talking.
Yeah.
How's that?
That sounds good.
Okay. So I'm kind of standing a little far away from the list, so I don't know. I mean, I think one of the things too was also the crane truck. So that crane truck is, I guess, obviously my role here today is obviously just to try to explain to you guys the importance of this. You guys have the task of trying to balance the overall huge picture, and everybody's asking for something, but this is definitely an emergency piece for us. It's a 98. It was a 99. I take that back. And at that time, when I inherited the fleet, we had all the forestry equipment was from 1968. So that was a big power year back in 98. We got a big mower, we got a crane, we got a chipper and a stump grinder. And the crane back then in 99 was 113,000. And it was pretty much an identical setup to what we're replacing it with now. And since then, that crane gets used not just for forestry. We use that within the Department of Public Works all the time. So that knuckle boom is very handy. We use it with the buildings department, lifting AC units. We transport nets with it. We lift a lot of, problem things around town with it. It's an essential plow vehicle that's on the main route, has one of the biggest wing plows that we have, that does all the main drags up on the west side, Salem and whatnot. So it's definitely a piece that gets utilized more than anything. And unfortunately, in this modern day and age, it's a huge price tag. We know that, but it's garaged, it gets greased and maintained all the time. So I can't see that this is another unit that in 13 years. Years ago, the DPW used to be on a very aggressive replacement plan that was 12 years, whether it needed it or not. Now, obviously, we don't always have that luxury, and we have to be savvy to that. There are pieces that, Frank, you're in the industry, that there just gets to be a point where it's just not, equitable to keep trying to nursing it. When we have all the employees in, we have the weather and everything's there. That's not even barring an emergency. We really need to jump, so we don't want it on the service lift. The new knuckle booms too that we're using, Italian-made unit. They're wireless, which is safe because we're always working around the power lines with it. It's a 32-foot length boom, which works really well for us. That's a tree that typically when we're taking down a tree, we get it down to the communication wire height around the wires. So, and it holds a lot of logs. So, do you guys have any questions about that?
I'm sorry.
I'm
this
just
is
gonna
probably
slow down
just-
and ask if you have questions, only because, I'm pretty passionate about this stuff. I could talk for an hour on the importance of the crane truck, but I won't. So,
So the crane truck, you're buying a new one, right? You're replacing the 99.
yes,
Yeah,
Okay.
so all the dates in that column B that's the date of the vehicle that's in there now. And actually, Frank, can you, hold on one second.
You're gonna have to really project when you're talking. It's all right.
So I just claimed the host for a second. So I'm just going to share my screen. I had mentioned last year to the committee that we're having problems with the frame on this vehicle. So I'm going to show you a picture of what that's starting to look like. This is a double channel frame because of the weight that this truck needs to carry. Can everybody see the picture that I just brought up?
Yep.
Yeah.
So that is actually rust and age separating that, and it's delaminating. And we have instances of this happening the whole length of the wheelbase of the truck. If we're not to start to address this soon, we're gonna have to send this out. We'll actually take the body off of the vehicle, sandblast it, and then have to re-weld the whole thing. So it's just kind of that's basically the spine of the whole vehicle. It's just kind of showing you, after 20 some odd years, this is kind of the shape that we're in as we speak. So I just thought it was important to show that. We mentioned that in the past.
obviously, like I said, this isn't just a forestry piece for us too, because this gets used during the week. You really to help out with all the departments. We pull out pieces that get stuck. We lift vaults with it down the cemetery. When the other machine can't pull them up, if we have to move some over, it's kind of a morbid, that's kind of hardcore if you're not used to hearing that stuff for cemetery talk, but we do utilize it for doing that kind of stuff. So it really is a piece that gets utilized a lot. So, and like Joey said, that frame rotting is a serious issue because knuckle boom cranes are rated differently. You have to get a truck that laterally the frame is stronger on the sides because the booms are always lifting off the side. So it's extra important that it has a good solid frame to do that. So, and it's lifting 32 feet at its end. It's capable of 2,200, 2,400 pounds. So up close, it's a little over 10,000. So it's a pretty sizable little unit. Any
What,
other questions?
Yeah, this is Phil. So out of your vehicle asks, you have about I don't know, a little over $460,000 worth of asks here. You know, 3 of them are leases, which sort of get accounted for differently, I believe. So when you have like the crane and the sander and the plow showing a lease, is it correct that that 53 or that number is not the per lease year? That's not the per year lease amount, right? That's the total amount for the vehicle?
Right, so if you're looking at the spreadsheet, the first column, which is column C, that's the first budgetary estimate of a conservative number where the vehicle is gonna come in.
Yeah,
Column E is what the anticipated lease payment would be. I'm
Yeah.
supposed to get some numbers back from the leasing company probably tomorrow. So that number will obviously move a little bit. I could say that, for the crane truck, the number that the cost of the vehicle is probably gonna come in at is somewhere around 238, 239,000.
it will be, yeah.
So that will obviously affect that lease payment and drive it down too. The sander is probably gonna be around 245 by the time that it's built and constructed. So as we move on to tomorrow's meeting and then any subsequent meetings after that, I'll have rock solid prices on what exactly that's gonna be.
And per the lease schedule attachment, which is the other tab, it shows that like next year, so the 22, 2 of the current leases are ending. So right now we have 4 lease payments. And then you're showing a potential new, a crane truck and dump sander plow. Are those 2, the crane and the dump sander, those are really what you would consider maybe your tier 1 asks out of this list?
I would say so. So everything that Dennis mentioned about that crane truck, it's a terrible way to describe it. It's basically our donkey, right? That's our workhorse. That thing
Yeah.
does anything that you could put on it. And then for the dump truck with the sander and the plow in it, that's just one of the frontline pieces. It does 85% of the snow and ice control. So pretty similar situation there with that vehicle. You're running into getting up close to 20 years and it's lived its whole life in salt and all the wet brine on the street. So it's starting to show its age. But you are correct. From fiscal 22 to fiscal 23, you are seeing the amortization schedule up top start to drop off. And then the potential items under there are just carried as a comparison sake to see, what that might look like.
Is there any other tier 1 asks, would you say? Like we've asked other departments to sort of prioritize their asks. Like out of these, out of your list here, are there any that you feel aren't tier 1?
As far as the vehicles are concerned,
Yeah,
I would say the 13 Chevy utility could probably be a tier 2. The sidewalk machines obviously not mine, and the cruisers aren't mine. It's a little hard for me to say that the sidewalk plows aren't tier 1, given that those are pushing 35, 36 years old. And then the utility van that we're looking for was something that we actually had on deck to be replaced last year, but that was
Right.
deferred.
right.
So that was cut completely.
Mhm.
As was the bombardier. We didn't even, the sidewalk plow, excuse me, we didn't even really get into that just based on, what the year was that we had in front of us.
Joe,
Mhm.
just to clarify, folks, it says sidewalk plow 2.
Yep.
It's down to 1. If you notice the price on the right, it's a lease payment for 1 of the units. So
Correct.
they're not asking for 2 right now. They're down to the 1.
Yep. And one of the things I also did with all those lease purchase estimates on this, I sent all the quotes back yesterday and asked for the trade allowances to be adjusted by the vendors. So there's there's potential for some more movement on that too, based on the numbers that we see back from them for trades. I think that the sidewalk plow, we're probably estimating somewhere between $5,000 and $7,000 as a trade-in for a 33, 34-year-old vehicle. So that would come off the top of the price for that.
The Ventrex sidewalk machine from last year, that was, is that different than the sidewalk plow?
Yes, so that machine, the sidewalk plows that I mentioned just about in the middle of the fleet section. Those are the ones that if you're ever out and about and see them working, they look like little tanks with a
Mhm.
bulldozer blade on the front of them. I could tell you that if you get a winter, and I'm sure Dennis would agree, similar to what we experienced in 2015, those are the only thing moving snow on the sidewalk. The snow blowers probably aren't going through it. If they are, they're going at a snail's pace. Those things are basically a workhorse. They're a one-trick pony, but what they do, they could literally bury themselves in snow and keep on trudging, but they do it very well. The other machine is similar to like a standing mower. That's a machine that the operator actually stands on with a snowblower mounted in front of it. And they would do, so Phil, you're in property maintenance. So if you had a large complex where you had like open space or courtyards and things like that, that's built to do more of like a Market Street setup where you have big long walkways and places where you have to get pedestrians from parking lots, point A to point B. Our machine does the public safety building, town hall, the civic center. The one that the school department is asking for would be to cover the Galvin campus. So they have quite a bit of area outside of the parking lot that they were looking to use that for.
Got it.
And relatively groomed. That has a lot to do with it too. So like that's a machine that typically would be out on, nice smooth concrete sidewalks around the property where the bombardier is popping on and off curbs all over town, for a 3 to 4 hour plow route basically all over town, which is, this hot top, concrete, all kinds of terrain. So, yeah, unfortunately, I know it well because I was here the last time we pitched one. We replaced one of the 19s. We had a 68, 69. These were little tiny ones, little standards. And we replaced one of those. And then years later, we got one, I think it was 1990. I think, Joey, when we got the diesel one, and that was kind of a learning curve for that machine that year. But anyways, it was, and the same, amortization that went in for that one, the same thing. We were replacing a 35 to, at the time, that one was pushing almost 40 years. And, it's just a huge expense really for the piece. But if you look at it in this definitely is not a 13 to 12-year replacement. This is basically keep it till it's just not, you can't get parts anymore, which is hopefully 20 or 30 years. So we have the blowers, and the blowers work really well. The snow has to be perfect. If it's slushy like this year, last year was a perfect example. Every storm we got was followed by pouring rain. The blowers sat, all three of them sat. So, and putting V blades on the other ones, they're not a quick disconnect. So it's not something that because of the tires, it's just not something that can really plow through 12-inch, 18-inch, 2 feet snow, like Joe said. So they're tried and true, pretty much indestructible. So it's just part of our equation to do sidewalks, unfortunately. So we're down to that problem now where the 90 that we have, the 89, it's just, Bombardier isn't stocking parts for it. So we're taking wiper motors from Napa and just kind of jerry rigging them on, and then exhaust parts. We're doing the same thing. We're cutting the sheet metal and making our own stuff on it. So the problem is when they really get old, they get really, really smelly. There's fumes. So the guys are getting kind of asphyxiated inside running them, and they're not in it for an hour. They're doing 3-hour shifts on them. So they really stink bad. So we that's what really pushed the envelope on the last time. It just was a safety issue. We just couldn't have them operated anymore. So, but any questions? So, yep, and so if we're good with that. Unfortunately, I just know it's just expensive stuff. And then this one is just equally as expensive. So I can kind of segue into the lawnmower, a very expensive lawnmower, but unfortunately, I'm used to seeing it. But if any of you guys are new to, and ladies are new to this is really the industry standard for what these mowers cost. This is the big gang mower that you see cutting the commons and all the athletic fields. It's about 12.5 feet wide. And the one that we're trying to replace is a 2012. So this unfortunately is not a piece that we can go 20 years on. The parts on it are just outrageous and they're expensive. And once you start replacing all the decks and the arms and the same thing, the machine is down more often than it isn't. So, and to put it into a spectrum of how much this is used for us for the town, this is doing about 78 acres of land a week. So this is going out 5 days a week, Saturdays during the real busy times. And if we do 3 to 4 fields a day, 3 acres, 4 acres, so it's doing, roughly 13 acres a day. And that season is basically right from grass starts growing in April all the way up until post Thanksgiving. So really the machine is only sitting for, a very short stint and it's being used. So we have a price in there that include the trailer that's equally as old and beat up. Same thing. We have frame issues. We've been welding it, replacing the boards, replacing the axles. Over the years, the axles have snapped twice, so we really had to beef it up for the size mower that we're using on there. And we are looking at about a $5,000 trade value for that too. So, in a perfect world, I'd love to have it sit, but we don't have that luxury to give up that kind of money and the space too. So I think, and then just going to general auction with something like that, it's pretty limited. It's a big, huge mower. So the only people that would be bidding on that are maybe some people up in Maine that are running sod farms. And there's no guarantee what they'd bid on it. So they don't use anything pretty up there as long as it cuts. So they typically go for low grade stuff, to cut those acres of sod farms up there. So any questions on the mower?
Is there a financing option on the mower?
It wasn't it wasn't like a car lease that was that equitable. They put it into almost like kind of like when you're buying a boat or a motorcycle. They those kind of rates. So unfortunately,
Yeah,
but
yeah, costly. Okay.
So I had mentioned earlier that I have to get updated numbers on the other vehicles. Does the committee want to see that and what that lease finance option might look like, just to put it into perspective?
It doesn't hurt to look, right? As I say, as I walk by a Ferrari dealership. So just as a word, I know Jeff's new, everyone else isn't, but like the leases at the top come off our bottom line. So I remember one year, we had a lot more leases than we have on the books now. And it automatically just eats away at the amount of money we have. And so there was a cautionary discussion either the year before or last year, about trying to not have too many leases, but all these big ticket items, it just makes so much sense to lease it rather than dropping. So I'm just mentioning that. I think we should, I'd be interested in what the lease looks like, but just, we're losing 60 grand in leases next year, but adding these just other two, we're now up 50. So it's just, plus whatever this other lease comes in at. So it's just something to think about.
I'll
Yeah, I
add it
agree.
to it too. And for the probably for Jeff, the term lease purchase is a little deceiving. Basically what it is you're financing it just like you would if you were to go to the car dealership and buy a car. A third party would take a look at the value of the vehicle, work with the town and the vendor, and come up with a payment structure so you could spread the payment out and absorb it over 3 or 5 year term versus taking it all up front.
Yeah. So the other thing too is in there, we have that, there's another mower in there that's they're pretty expensive. That's about $30,000. That's a mower for the cemetery. When I say cemetery, that's where it spends most of its life. But when we start getting behind on the fields and certainly the athletic fields, this is a mower with a big with a vac on it. So it's basically a hopper. It's a little different than what your landscapers use. This one can dump right in the back of a 1-ton. And the tread pattern obviously is spread out. So mowing down the cemetery, there's a lot of flush markers and the ground's uneven. So it's not like the little, 48-inch mowers that you see cutting lawns with the walkers and whatnot. So we have that, the John Deere that we're replacing. And same thing, that's at a point now where we just can't get parts for it. The hopper, it's fiberglass, they don't even make it anymore. So this is really, yeah. So, and that was also a mower that was, deferred from last year, was on the list, was a discussion, then just got wiped out, like the Bombardier and the others. So kind of now we're getting to the point where, back to like I was saying, I know there's just everyone's asking for money and projects and equipment, and then what happens is we table everything, hoping to get one more year out of it. That mower actually ended up, it blew a motor, and that was one of the John Deere, was either Perkins or the John Deere, motor, and it was just a ridiculous amount of money. And unfortunately, I was in a pickle because it was still our main mower down there. So we rebuilt the mower, and then we end up with basically a mower that we can't get parts for, but now the motor's good. So, that's just why we're trying to stay up with this stuff. So, and this is a big cleanup machine for us too. So all in the spring, certainly down there, we're out cutting, they're blowing leaves in and around the headstones. It cuts and sucks it all up and then dumps it out into a truck. In the fall, the same thing. We rough it with leaf backs just like landscapers do. The only advantage is this one can kind of go in and around the rows, and you're not trying to walk leaves out 200 feet out. You can just go up and down the rows, get 80% of it, then the blowers do the rest. So, we get into a rainy season, all the wet properties like Narcella Field, Moulton, Maple Way, they start clumping up and they're unable to have games. We start hitting all the properties with, every mower that bags. And this is one that can do it pretty quickly. So we can go out and bang out that field, Narcella, and in 2 hours, we can cut and suck the whole field, get it off and get the grass down to a playable height, which is what typically the gang mowers and the real mowers are cutting. So, I think that's that, unless, same thing. I know I'm going kind of fast. If you guys have questions, certainly, ask.
You're doing fine. If we get questions, somebody will jump in.
Okay, all right. I just didn't want to talk over everybody. I like talking about this stuff, so I sometimes I have to come up for air. So, oh yeah. So the that other one is the Skag blower is it's a pricey little unit, but it's really to replace the turbine that we bought. So the Skag blower is basically one of those stand-up mowers that you stand up, but it's got a 30 horse blower attached to it. So it has a very small footprint. It's only about 4.5 feet long. And basically we can blow all kinds of wind and leaves and stuff. So the machine we're using now is an old turbine unit that we pull. Very similar to what you see. They use bigger ones that they blow down the tracks at NASCAR. So it has its place. It's very long. You have to pull it with one of the John Deere gators. So trailing it around town makes it really, with our trailers, it doesn't really fit. We have to jockey it sideways, drive it over the road. It's not registered. So we use that obviously a lot in the 4th of July cleanup. That's actually what we used it for originally when I got it years ago, was for that premise. But this blower obviously would be utilized in both my departments. It'd be used down the cemetery, down the old cemetery around that uneven ground, and then certainly at every park that we do, we're making mountains of leaves at every property we do. So unfortunately, it's just when you look at it, you would never think that it's a $12,000 item, but that's the industry standard. That's what they go for. So.
Last but not least, is the playground.
And then moving forward, we're talking about the playgrounds. So obviously we are we've been on a replacement plan. Some of them got tabled, and we kind of ran into a problem where the Woodville, the metal decks that are on those playgrounds are actually the same thing. They're steel, but they're laminated. They're multi-layered decks. When we looked at that, we knew that the rubber surfacing was wearing off of those playgrounds. We started to, we thought we had another season, and it had been rotting out from the inside. So all of a sudden, there were, your foot would go right through the deck. So we had to shut that playground down. It was during COVID. We weren't budgeted for a replacement, so we spent just under 12,000. I think it was 11,800 replacing the 5 decks. As with that playground stuff, it's crazy money, and very, very expensive. But we did. We went and got the decks replaced. So right now, the Woodville, it's not exciting. It's been limited with the attachments that have been removed because of safety issues. The rubber surfacing was done a few years ago, so it's just a very lackluster playground right now. And the problem is the posts and the hardware on the rest of it are still dated. That playground was also installed with volunteers down at the old Franklin School. And then from the Franklin School, it was then transformed up to the Woodville, and we've been nursing it ever since. So, I think the school wants to see it replaced. I'm being faced myself knowing that the state of the Walton School playground is really bad. There's wooden ramps that had to been added because of handicap accessibility, and when the new Walton School was built, that really affected the blueprint of that playground. So there's basically a little lock block wall around the edge of it. So it's the fall zones are within inches of what's actually legal. So there's a swing set up there that's out of code technically. So we go to replace that. It's just not acceptable fall zones underneath. It's pea stone and to replace that, the code now is a monstrous footprint. It's probably 30 feet deep by 60 feet long. So same thing. We've been going up there and taking stuff apart, welding it. It's kind of rotting out basically from the stem. That was built on a concrete slab, the Walton School. So in my opinion, I think the Walton should be replaced with the Woodville, only because we just replaced the decks, but we're still not far out on that. So, whether the school's putting money in for that too, Joe, or asking or requesting,
Yeah, so the school is pretty heavy.
Okay, so the school really wants to get the Woodville down. I just didn't know the process of whether it goes to them, goes to us, or both for funding. But we can't. I can't wait for them. So we obviously have to put it in and make an attempt to show that it's there. The other one is also the Dalbia School. They have requests that they'd love to see the bigger playground rubber surfaced. It's built on a hill. The playground itself is level, but the underground is not level. So rubber surfacing that would be a major project. But safety-wise, I think the playground is in relatively good condition. The top lot around the corner, that's a rubber surface. Same thing. A few years back, the rubber surfacing was all ripped. It was a trip hazard for the smaller kids and the special need kids that go out there. So we had to spend 28 grand putting rubber surfacing under it. The playground itself got stress cracks and it's way beyond its time. So again, we just have to do one a year. We just did the Greenwood playground successfully. That was a lot of money, and that was same thing. Visually driving by seems okay and intact, but it really wasn't. The decks were starting to rot. All the plastic was cracked, and it's so expensive. The problem is when you go to try to replace those playgrounds with the plastic pieces, they don't fit because the whole playground's been morphing to itself. So it ends up being a total rehab. So Questions on playgrounds? It's a little overwhelming because of the money that's being thrown out there, but it's, unfortunately, that's what they're going for now. And the days of trying to save $20,000 on trying to get volunteers in there to do it, yeah, it's good for community morale. It's just time-wise, it's just, and I know I sound very negative. I've done 16 of them, so I get it. And we end up building 90% of it. And Frank, you've been there on a few of them. It's a lot of work, and it's a good community build, but it ends up being a time thing, a scheduling thing. People are busy, and the money to have someone come in and bang it out in a timely fashion is without interrupting everything else. If we're on the playground for 2 weeks, we're not doing anything else in town. We have to shut down. So it's
What do
really
you think?
judicial.
What do you think the lifetime is on one of those playgrounds?
I mean, the Walton School, we had the ribbon cutting ceremony in 2000. We built that with Brian McGrail, and at the time his kids were toddlers up there. So, and then and that whole gang up on the west side. So, we got 21 years out of it. The Franklin School, you're talking what, 98? It was already standing before I took over in 98, and that's when it was shut down. So yeah, so I mean, you're talking it's
Okay,
going,
Steve.
yeah.
Yeah, you get some durability out of them, sure.
Yeah, I mean, the old stainless steel stuff that were at the playgrounds, those were 35-year playgrounds back in the day, but nobody wants them. They're too tall and scary and hot for the kids. So
Yep.
and
Okay,
this stuff
thanks.
is all molded, injected plastic, so it really depends on vandalism and and weather and stuff. But for the most part, we're getting 20 years out of it. Any questions?
Did Dennis, do you want to talk about the road paver, or is that going to be somebody else?
No,
Joey can-
Frank, that'll be me.
Oh, okay, just a second. Okay,
All right, thank you.
thanks, Dennis.
Okay, so I'm just gonna steal the screen again for 1 second. Was everybody able to open the supplemental attachment I sent, some of the buildings info?
Yes.
The
I'm
one
just
I
gonna,
sent out today.
what'd you say, Frank?
The one I sent out today.
Yes. So I'm gonna pull that up, and I'm gonna ask Chris Pierce to kind of go through that, and give you a little backup as to some of the things that they're addressing and some of the reasons why. Did that window show up for everybody? It says North Ave garage door.
We're looking at your water assessment page.
Yeah.
All right. How about now? Still water.
Smaller water assessment page.
Small water assessment. Can you believe Canton's water price?
Hang on 1 second. Phil, you sure you're not the the IT guy, right? Perfect. All right, how's that?
There you go. That's it.
All right,
All right, so I'm gonna turn it over to Chris.
How you guys doing? All right, this is North Ave garage door replacement phase one. There's at least 4 of them that we could do. We could choose from any one of them. This one is the worst one. We've had the door guy out there more times than you could ever imagine. It needs to be replaced. It's just at that point where it's lived its life and it needs to go.
So this is something that is included in the initial requests, based on some of the feedback we got from the overhead door company. We actually removed this, and this is something that we're gonna address immediately out of some other funding we have available. So this is basically shown to highlight the need in the building, but this will not impact any of the group's decisions moving forward.
The senior center boilers is that right now there's 4 boilers at the senior center that control the senior center. They come on as the temperature goes down, it drops, kicks on 1, kicks on 2, kicks on 3, kicks on 4. Right now we have one that's totally down and gone. There's a second one on its way out. What we're proposing to do is getting rid of the 4 that are there and putting 2 water source heat pumps in to control the whole building, more efficient, better heat, up to date. So that's where we are with this. It's in a small area up on top where they never finished the senior center. Getting to them is tough. It's just, you gotta step over 1 million pipes. The floor is not finished up there, so. You guys have any questions on that?
No.
Is this, can you hear me? No?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, the replacements, will they go on the second floor or are they gonna
No,
go in the
they're put-
basement?
The placements are gonna go back up there where these
They are,
Yes,
okay.
but with them being new and they're more efficient and everything else, I don't think we're gonna have to visit as many times as we've been up there.
Dan, I think unfortunately, in a perfect world, we'd move them to some of the lower levels. I
Sure,
think though, given the occupancy of the building, being our seniors, there may be some that are a little less ambulatory, than someone maybe a little bit younger.
yeah,
They renovated the building. That's basically the meeting space. They do a lot of their functions typically where, the building controls would be. Unfortunately, they're gonna go back in kind if replaced, in the top of the building. But given, the activities that happen in there every day, it almost, makes sense for if any building's gonna be a little out of sort with where they're located, this is the one that's different.
yeah. Okay, it's not gonna require any special reinforcement because there's already the boilers up there, so the reinforcement that's supporting that floor is okay?
Yeah, they're gonna be a lot lighter and they're gonna be in another area of the floor. They're not
Good.
gonna be in the same location.
Okay,
Greenwood Fire generator replacement, this is what they're using now. It's totally inadequate. It breaks down all the time. They run out of gas. We've been over there 1,000,000 times to fix it. It's in a box. So we're proposing to put a new, better generator in, so this is the price. You're looking at the quote that we got for the newer one, and I think there's pictures with that. Yeah, there you go.
Is that that's a diesel?
It's natural gas.
It's natural gas?
Oh, diesel rather. I'm sorry, it's diesel. Yeah,
Okay, because we don't have any underground
Diesel, yeah.
tanks.
right. It's underneath.
They have an above ground tank over there?
It sits on the tank. That black piece is the tank. It sits on it.
and what do they use these, is this a backup power source or is this,
Yeah, it's a backup power source for
standard?
them.
Okay, okay,
So when the little one goes down, they run out of power.
right,
So Dan, what this does to them, operationally, think of that storm in August that we got with all the tree damage.
yeah,
If they lose electricity and the generator quits, they don't have radio communication, so they're either on portables or more than likely taking the vehicle out of the station for the night, and moving uptown
Sure.
until they can restore power.
okay. Thank you.
Town hall roof replacement, this is the parapet roof that's above. When you walk out, it's the first roof that's there, the flat roof. It leaks like crazy. We've patched it 1,000,000 times. It's got fasteners popping through. You can see the discoloration around the drain where it's been leaking. It leaks on the walls, the parapet walls, seam leaks. So it really needs to be replaced.
Is there another roof under this roof? Is this a built-up roof? You know, I just noticed on the quote that was attached, there was a comment that struck out. Trying to find it.
Is that just remove existing membrane roof system? That may just be the old one.
Yeah, it's removing the roof up there and putting on a new one.
The current
Yeah, so it's a
membrane.
CPDM.
Right, EPDM, right.
And you are going to be changing out all the, and that 2-inch, we're not under any sort of energy code you have to worry about, because that 2 inches is usually about 4 inches if but we're not stretch code, are we, in Wakefield?
Not
yet,
yet. I do know that that is something that is in the works for the future. More than likely, all signs seem to think that we'll probably be heading that way, but this project could potentially squeak in.
Yep,
just
under.
before that.
How big is that roof? What do you think the area of that is, or what by what?
This office, Bill's
Yeah.
office.
This is like when you walk into town hall, this is the roof over you, right? Like the overhang over the front door. Is that where this is?
Over the front door, if you know where the mailboxes are, the new mailboxes,
Yeah.
you're standing in front of those and you look up to your left. It's that roof up there.
Okay, it just seems like a high number for that little roof, but there might be more to it, so.
This basically stretches from the building inspector's office all the way to Lafayette Street, and
Oh,
then
okay.
probably
Got it.
halfway. So it goes, more than half the length of the building from the building inspector's office to Lafayette Street, and then it probably stretches just about halfway from the rear parking lot towards Common Street. So you're
Okay,
probably looking at.
Yeah, Yeah, something like that in that.
okay,
in that realm.
no, that's fine. I was just thinking it was just the overhang, the front entrance. I was trying to gauge the price on it, but if it's that much, that's.
Yeah, and it's fasteners and it's insulation if it's damaged when they pull it up, you know what I mean? It's so.
Yeah.
Do you get more than one estimate for those things?
So
I only see Steve's estimate here.
So with this roof, this company is actually, we put out a roofing contract every 3 years. This is the contractor that we have on for time and material. We certainly could get another price on it. I'd be hesitant to think though, with the amount of work that we're doing, that it would be much different than what we have here. The one thing we know, with this vendor is that we have a decent working relationship with them, and they've always stood by anything that they've done. So there's a little bit of peace of mind into that too.
Mhm. Yeah, I know Steve. Yeah.
You have any mechanical equipment they're moving around? You guys don't have mechanical equipment at that town hall, right?
Yeah, there's a unit on top, isn't there?
Yeah, right there. There's one unit. Right in the corner.
Yeah.
And that includes them maneuvering around that.
Yep.
All right, I was just doing, oh, there it is. I was just doing an aerial view. I see what you guys are talking about. Okay, thanks.
Town hall window replacements. This is going to be the first phase of this replacement on the town hall itself. These windows are very old. A lot of them leak. They fall down in the middle of the winter. We come in a couple times. There was windows open, and snow on the ground, on the floor. The sills on a lot of them have rotted. So they're very inefficient. So we want to start a window replacement program similar to the other ones we've been doing all over town.
Now, you're replacing more than the window if you're getting into the sills and the frame.
Right, but I believe my guys will do the sills. Once
Okay.
they pop the windows, my carpenters will come in and do the sills.
Yeah, what kind of windows you guys looking at? I know some of these look like they're on the addition. It looks like I see some gray siding and some old, like really old crappy aluminum. But like the ones in the actual town hall and the brick part of the building, or any of
Right.
those in this list?
Yes, those will be in the list.
Yeah.
We'll do the low-lying fruit, the low-hanging fruit first,
Yeah.
because it's easy to get to. You don't have to be on a lift. So it's cheaper. We'll do those first.
This picture, Phil, that you're actually looking at here, this
Yeah.
is the west side of the building. It's really kind of like the back alley in between Lafayette Street and Five Common. This
Yep.
window right here is either the Board of Health's office or maybe Human Resources. So this is directly above pretty much where the town clerk is. And as you mentioned, this is part of the addition to the building with the aluminum siding. And these windows are probably vintage to whenever that siding project was
Right.
done.
They're not original to the building.
No.
So
How many windows are in this phase?
Let me figure, I want to say between 12 and 15.
Okay, so, and that is phase one of probably, if it's 12 or 15 a phase, there's probably what? There's probably 70, 60 windows in the place?
Right.
Okay, so this is one of four. All right,
Yep.
And that's coming out to $2,000 a window essentially.
Right. Depending on what we find, I don't know if there's lead paint. I gotta, we have to check it all before we do it.
that's actually not bad.
Or the asbestos in the caulking or. Yeah. Like the storage shed on the Galvin, when the Galvin was built, they never put any place for storage for the filters. Right now, we have a hallway that goes to the roof that is packed with filters and belts because we have nowhere else to put them. And the fire department's killing me on it like every week. They want it moved. So what we propose to do is to put a shed in this area here that we're showing you and use that for the filters and the belts for the replacements of all. Because it's a new building, it has a lot of filters, a lot of belts that we need to replace all the time. So we need a place to put them. Right now, the hallway's just not working for us.
that doesn't do anything to the warranty of that roof?
No, I'll make sure that when we're up there, that the roofer will be there with us. When we put it up there, we'll make sure that it's done right, it's correctly.
I would venture to guess that at this point in time, the warranty on the roof is probably over. Phil, you might be the resident expert on that one, though, sitting on the permanent building committee.
Well, most, this is a white, this is a TPO. Most TPOs have at least a 10 to 15 year
Yeah, I
warranty.
think we still have it on certain things of it.
Yeah, no, the white membrane, one thing I'm gonna caution is you may want to reach out to the roofer manufacturer real quickly once you have an idea what you want to put up there, and just make sure that if they have a particular detail of how they want it to sit on the roof, that's followed so the warranty doesn't get voided.
Right.
A lot of times they have, these booklets of details of all this crazy stuff.
Right,
So it's worth asking, once you guys know what you want to do, to reach out, because you're going to have to let them know you're doing something to the roof to keep that warranty in place.
Mhm.
okay, exactly. All right, the Yule School boiler replacement. There's two old boilers in the school. One of them's ready to go. The other one is, who knows when that's gonna go, covered with asbestos.
Things
So
are
we
ancient.
propose to start replacing to get one of them out of there. Last year, we did the oil tank outside. We pulled the tanks, we put new oil tanks inside. I talked to Jimmy Brown at the gas company. He says his gas that runs down Crystal now, where before it didn't. So we could actually tie the new one into gas and get off the oil altogether on that school.
I believe this is the last, with the exception of, I think, the high school, this is the last building under the town's control that is still using oil for fuel.
Yep.
This one. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
Yep. And Seam Collaboratives there. It's not a school run by the school department. It's Seam Collaborative actually rents the building from us.
So just one of the things to note on any of the boilers that we propose anywhere, one of the things that we're really striving to do is get mechanical continuity throughout the boilers. So you'll see that HP Smith and or Lochinvar are the two brands that we're using. They're the brands that the folks that work for us have been to the trainings, they've been to the schools. So we're just trying to make sure that, we're not picking something off the lot that's the cheapest or, the newest thing. We're going with tested and true, and things that, you know, will be supported by a variety of people, including ourselves in-house.
Do you have asbestos removal in this budget number?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah,
And
these
that-
things are,
that's-
these
So
things
that's
are
for the,
ancient.
that's for the boiler and all the piping related.
Yeah, that's for both boilers. When we do the removal, we're gonna remove it all from both boilers and all the piping and the water heater that's in there. We're gonna get rid of it all in that boiler.
What
That's in
about
that
the new,
price.
what about the new venting? You're gonna have to probably line the chimney if you're not using a direct vent. I'm gonna guess the Yule school doesn't have a liner in it.
Probably not. So, yeah, we're probably either gonna go with direct vent or we're gonna go with the liner.
So that, this number doesn't include a line, because a liner could add another 10 to 15,000 to this.
Yeah, but I think he's going more with direct vent.
A direct vent HB Smith.
It's in the, when you walk in the front door, you go down the hallway, where as far as you can go, and there's a door there, it's right in there. Yeah, so it's on two exterior walls.
Okay.
What's the life expectancy on these, on the boilers?
So those two that are in there now, for whenever the building was
Yeah.
built.
Those things are awesome.
They last forever.
They're so old.
Little pork chops.
Yeah,
I'll tell you in 1 second.
very few people can work on
Curious.
those either.
Oh, yeah. You got some of the old guys love these old ones. They go
Yeah, we
crazy
have-
when they see them.
We have a guy that works for us that's an old boiler man, and he loves it.
Yeah, loves them.
So.
What about the removal of the oil tank? Don't you have to do that when you're switching fuels? They do,
That was done last year.
the oil tank is gone.
Yep, the oil tank's gone. We took it out last year, and we put in new tanks inside.
And do those have to go? If we're switching to a gas only burner, don't those oil tanks have to go, or do they just get
No.
cleaned out and left in place?
No, they don't have to go because the other one that's still there runs on oil. Until we make that second replacement,
No.
Mhm.
Yep.
then we have to.
So the
Okay.
Yule School was constructed in 1965, or went into service in 1965. So those boilers are, you know, period correct.
Like the Greenwood Fire Escape, every so often, these have to be inspected. The inspection's coming up and they have to be totally, this one has to be, whatever they find has to be repaired and then they have to be painted. So that's what this is. That's what you're looking at. Yeah, there's a few things that need to be done right now, but other than that, the report will come out and then whatever the report says, we have to get done.
So Chris,
door
that's,
school-
that's repairing, that's not replacing, that's repairing.
That's right.
Wow.
So that's 10 grand for replacement, or is that the inspection as well?
That includes the inspection as well. And the
Shouldn't the
repairs.
inspection come out of an operational budget?
Mhm.
I don't see why it wouldn't. I'd say
Right.
the only thing probably different with this is you're mandated by code for this.
Right.
There are lots of operational things that are mandated by safety codes. but-
Yeah, I mean, so I know typically the group doesn't, has frowned upon painting, being in as far as a capital expense. I would say that this isn't painting for aesthetics, this is painting for rust prevention so that you can get some more life out of it.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything about the repair or the painting. I'm just, the inspection should be part of an that's a known ongoing expense, right?
How much does it cost for the inspector to come out?
Right around 2 grand.
And you're assuming that that it needs new bolts and all that, so this is.
Well, definitely. The last time we had it done, it needed a lot of work. It needed, they found bolts up, they found metal that had to be tacked down, they found a lot of things that were wrong with it.
When was that?
That was roughly 3 or 4 years ago.
Mm.
When they first put the law in place, Jack made us go around and do all this.
Weight test can get really expensive because you have to have, you have to have a structural person. Like, it's not an easy, and I've seen a lot of wishy-washy on whether or not you have to do weight tests, but I'll trust the town on this one. Just, I don't think 10 grand's enough, and I think this is an operating expense all in. I've never paid for this out of capital expenses at any of my properties, but it does need to get done. I think it's every 5 years or so. In Cambridge, it's every 5 years.
These are the two, this next picture is the two heat pump motors at the Doyle that have to be replaced. They've been Frankensteined and they've been pulled apart, they've been prepared. They're just ready to go. So we need to replace two of them. Yep. All right,
60,000 covers two?
yes.
Huh?
The next picture is the toilets at the Greenwood. The girls' room toilets. They have to be replaced. We're having tons of problems with them. They're leaking from the bottom, they're leaking from the top.
Are you gonna keep them all flushometers? Are you going with tanks? They're all gonna be the same type of toilet, right?
Yeah, yeah.
This is something too, if you look at the updated sheet that got sent out, the price on this has actually been cut in half. We have some stock that we're gonna be able to reuse to save a little bit of expense there. And that was able to save us basically everything outside of buying the toilets, the flanges, and a couple of
Right.
things for the direct fit. How many toilets is this? 20? So this is just another one we have in here because it was mentioned. This was actually a request from the schools. This is a $20,000 capital request for split system air conditioners to be put in the Greenwood. I believe it's the principal's office and a couple other offices have in the front southern corner of the building there. Our group has decided to pull this from the plan. We believe that we can get this accomplished for much cheaper than $20,000, and we can do it out of our operating budget this year. Because of the way some of the funding and the year has turned out, this shouldn't be a problem. So both our electrician and our HVAC folks think that this is something that will accommodate much cheaper, and we could save some space on the plan for a potential other project. So it's in here for reference, but this is something that we're gonna just take care of.
Yeah, we'll pull it in house.
We talked about that last year.
Right. Yeah, just while we're on it, one of the other things we mentioned last time was the hot water heater at the Dolbear School. I mentioned that we were going to be doing that ourselves. Come to find out, Friday afternoon, the hot water heater let go, and they are either just finished it yesterday or finished it today.
Yep.
So that project is done and removed from the plan as well.
It always goes on a Friday afternoon.
Always.
This is the nursery on Sylvan Street. It's been neglected for years. It needs to have an overhaul on the inside. It's got rat holes, animal holes that bored through, and you can see from the pictures the way it is. That's it from the outside. It looks pretty good from the outside.
So that siding is T111.
Right.
The back of the building, I think they just kind of threw the building up. Nobody really ever took any time to think about grades, so it's been wet. The pitch of the surrounding area beside it almost pitches it right into the building and then cast it down into the woods. So that would all be corrected by us in-house, and then after the fact, Chris's team would go in and basically get rid of all the rot and make it something that can be a little bit more user-friendly.
That's used to store all our salt for the winter, the snow blowers, everything that we can't store in this shed here at the town hall. Takes care of all the overflow. And that's the gate out front that needs to be replaced.
This was something that we had put in last year as well that was deferred. As you can see in the picture, this gate's actually locked. The two gates from time don't even swing close. It looks like something that probably, would be more appropriate in front of Fred Sanford's garage at this point. This is just paving. This is something that we'll address to take care of the drainage issues from the surface. As you can see, the paving is probably 25, 30 years old. It's way too thin, and it's something that we'll do on our own. This is just to note that it's in the queue for us.
This is for the asbestos replacement at the old school. We just did one last year, replaced a lot of friable tiles that were in there. And this is the second part of it to get rid of a lot more of the friable tile that's in the old school.
So this price is, correct me if I'm wrong, this price is approximately 6,600 square feet or 3 classrooms.
Right.
Was it 450 a square foot?
Yeah, come up to like 450 a square foot.
I'm sorry, what are you replacing it with?
Regular VCT tile.
Regular? Yeah, okay.
And then 5 Common, we started the window replacement last year, 2 years ago. We did it last year, and this is the phase 3 of the window replacement that'll finish it over at 5 Common. We've moved a lot of people over there, and it's basically, there's only, I believe, one person that's there that's not part of the town. Treasurer's over there, Chamber of Commerce, Tom Walsh. So basically, we've filled the building with people from the town.
So as some of the folks, like there's a psychiatry office in there.
Right.
As they had, gone on and done whatever, and they've created a vacancy, Chris's team has taken, so like our emergency manager had a small office next to the boiler room downstairs at Town Hall. We tried to move them out of those spaces in the basements and, basically wherever we could fit a body, and fill that building accordingly there.
This is a Greenwood Fire Station. This is a window replacement for the Greenwood Fire Station. The windows there are the same deal. They're old. The breeze blows through them.
Can I just ask a quick question on the common window?
Yep.
Sorry, I know it's late, but
No, it's all right. Go ahead.
phase 3 should complete this project. Can you just
Yes.
confirm that it will
3 should-
complete?
Phase 3 should complete it.
Like, can we confirm that it will complete it, or are we going to see a phase 4 next year? It'd be nice just to finish this up.
I'll finish it up this year. Yeah, if it's one, I can pick that up on, somewhere else.
Yeah,
So,
I would say I feel pretty comfortable guaranteeing that that'll be completely finished. So there'll be no more phases of that project.
it'll phase out.
This project at the Greenwood Fire Station 2 will be a complete one phase.
It's 12 windows.
These are the
I believe.
windows that are on their offices and dormitory. So this is the side of the building that essentially faces both Main Street and the alleyway to the post school.
Mhm.
And this is just the quote to do that.
And then the water bubblers, which is phase 2. We started phase 1, putting in bottle fillers and new water bubblers throughout the town. And this is just the second phase of that.
This is kind of a joint effort. So I know the school department wants to get this done. Knowing the new reality of life and everything like that, to get at least a couple of bottle fillers in each school, or I believe Bob will tell you tomorrow they're looking to do one on each floor. This will start to accomplish a little bit more of that. This should basically get you all the elementary schools the Galvin, and it will start you in the high school. How far that completely goes will probably depend on what the MSBA and that building project gets.
And the number depends on the water heater that's in place that we're replacing it with, if there's one there. Because it's not just a pull out one, put one in. It's, it gets involved. So. The Woodville gym floor refinishing, it needs to be refinished. It was one of the ones that we never picked up in the last previous years. It's yellowed, definitely needs to be done. Like the building management system right now, there's 4 different contractors that run the buildings in the town. The one that runs the Walton and the Woodville has totally not responded to us at all. He's gone rogue on us. So we were getting the guy that does the public safety building to give us a price on getting control over those 2 buildings. There's 2 ways that we can do it. We can either just get control over it, or he can go in and he can put his stuff in there and he can totally take over those 2 buildings. So that's what that price is you see.
This is on the same concept of the boilers. What we're trying to do is, instead of having to learn a new program for every building, we're
Right.
trying to build in some continuity with that.
Trying to get one contractor in for the town.
So what does the BMS do? Is it fire alarm?
It does all the controls for the boilers and the HVAC.
Okay,
It's basically the brain of all your
Yeah.
heating and cooling.
the heating and cooling. Yep. All right.
So I'll talk on this one. This is, believe it or not, the electrical panels at Town Hall are maxed out. So we need to add a 3rd panel on so we have some more space. With everything going, real tech heavy and things, we've maxed out all the breakers that we have. So this is something, it's included on this just for transparency to show the committee that it's on our radar. This is something that we're actually going to do out of our operating budget and will be removed from the overall presentation. Again, more of a talking point just to say we recognize the need. We've come to the conclusion that we have the means to be able to do this now, and we'll be doing that. This is just some backup information related to that. Again,
All right, this is the oil tank removal at the Greenwood. This is one of the last tanks that has to be removed from the town. We're not on oil anymore at the Greenwood School. We're on gas. So that tank clock is ticking to get it out of the ground. It's located out back. So it's going to be done over the summertime because the kids meet in the morning is out back. So this will be one of the last tanks that has to be removed. The rest of them are all out except for the high school.
this request too. So this figure is not all encompassing. This is complete removal and demo of the existing concrete slab that sits over the boiler now. But the highway division will go in and make all the asphalt repairs to the parking lot out of our regular operating that we would do for like parking lot maintenance. So the request here is really just to get the tank out of the ground, and then the rest of the work we'll pick up because it's something that, it's the bread and butter of what we're doing every day.
Right, and this does not include if we pull that tank and there's a hole in it and the ground saturated with oil. That's a whole nother animal.
Why aren't you using a local Wakefield company for that? I know a big local Wakefield. Is there a reason you don't have a quote from them?
No, this is the guy that we always used to pull the tanks. He's pulled our tanks in the past. He's given us great pricing.
Bill, I know the company that you're referencing. We had gotten a quote for them at the Doyle School when we pulled the tank out there. And the contractor that is represented in this quote beat them on the price by about $7,000
Okay.
the last time.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Here's another one on the plan, not gonna be moved forward by Public Works, but basically what happened is Chris's division had grown over the years. What once was 2 or 3 people at Town Hall has turned into, 2 or 3 maintenance craftsmen, an HVAC mechanic, a plumber, an electrician, and some more of the trades. One of the things that we don't have the luxury of is Chris's guys don't really have anywhere that they completely call home. So they come to Town Hall and that is basically their base, but they have storage scattered all out throughout town. One of the things that we're finding at Town Hall is the parking lot here is very, very, very congested during the day. It was even more so when the school existed across the street. So what we're intending to do here is pave a portion of the 11 Lafayette, which you see here, so that Chris's guys can get some of his vehicles and snowplows and things like that out of the parking lot and free up some space. Again, for transparency, it's in here. This is something that we'll just be doing on our own, but we just wanted to show you that, it's in the queue for us.
Yep.
Do you expect any neighborhood complaints about expanding the lot? Especially, I'm looking back behind the town truck there. I see houses and everything. You got to be parking construction vehicles, snow removal and stuff. Is that right?
Well, on the other side of that, you see that wooden gate? On the
Yeah.
other side of that gate is there's a little fence there. And then
Yeah.
there's condos back there. We usually
Yeah.
park right there. The only complaint that we get is in the winter time when the diesel trucks idle to warm
I
up.
see.
And that's the only complaint we usually get. And they usually call me and tell me, they're idling too long and to move them. So,
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
So, Dan, unless it snows out or we get called out for an emergency, once Friday afternoon comes around, with the exception of one kind of off shift custodian that we have who works in the weekend, these
I see.
vehicles are basically beached, so they shouldn't really move.
Uh-huh. Okay.
and one of the problems we find is in the wintertime, the town comes in and parks on the perimeter. So if we're out, we pull back in, there's nowhere for us to park at all because it's been taken by somebody in the town that moved their car to bring it
Yeah,
over to
yeah.
Town Hall to park.
Okay.
So I think the next couple slides, again, I'm fully understanding that painting is an operating thing. We just kind of want to highlight some of this to show you some of the things that our group has observed that we want to bring attention to and that we'll be handling within the next budgetary year. Just to kind of give you an idea that we recognize that like these columns exist like this and look like this, and maybe something that's on our radar to touch up.
That brick pillar, you gotta address right away, Joe. I'm sure you know that. That's gonna get exponentially worse real quick. That rust jacking that's going on in that first dough bear picture.
Bring back a little bit of the shine. So this is more of the picture. I think the whole school is fine. This is actually the second parking lot. Second playground that Dennis had mentioned. This is the top lot. So this area is actually in the back of the building. You can't really see it in this picture, but this white, this is
Yeah, it's
basically
all
like
stained, the water.
Benjamin Moore Moresco white paint, all yellowed up. Some examples of inside the high school. The walls need a little bit of love. And the fascia and the soffits of the high school are in the same condition basically as the door there. This is by the superintendent's office. This is actually, I believe, the door that gets into the band area. There's a little overhang that they have there. You can't really tell from this picture, but this paint is actually flaking to the point where it's starting to fall.
Some of this looks pretty bad.
Yeah. I mean, the high school, it needs some attention. That's for sure. I think that the town recognizes that in going to feasibility studies. So but the kids need to learn there, and they're afforded the same safe, nice working, learning environment that anybody else is. Same thing with Doyle. It seems to be the pattern with all these metal wraparound and flashing needs to get addressed. These columns don't look as bad, Phil.
Civic Center.
So that basically sums up the picture portion of tonight's walkthrough. There are a couple other things. I just want to double check to make sure that we covered. No, I think we did it all. So
Can I ask a question? The Yule School boiler replacement is zeroed out on the sheet that was sent out?
So that is a question that I need to ask Steve. So that's zeroed out. That was actually the second part of the conversation. Depending on what the town, I don't know what the town's long-term plan is for the schools. I don't know if that is something that they're gonna actually be thinking about using for swing space during construction or whatnot. So I zeroed it out just because we don't know. If Steve or Doug get back to us and say that that is more of a priority in the radar and include it in. But what I was trying to do based on the conversation last time is to see if we could get the $3 million number that we got to and bring that down to, somewhere around the 2.5 range to make it a little bit easier to start working towards the ultimate goal of the 2 million. One of the things that you have up there too now, Seam Collaborative is in the building and renting the building. They're contributing, rent money and things like that to pay for the fuel that goes on in there.
No, about it.
Does anybody have anything for Chris to cover?
Thanks for the pictures.
Makes it a lot easier.
It really
It
does.
Thank you guys for spending your time to do this.
All right. Do we want to just take a look at the spreadsheet and kind of run through it and talk some things out? It's up to you guys.
Joe, can you zoom in, to make your audio a little better?
Yeah. How about now?
Does everyone agree the audio a little hollow?
A little far away.
All right, I got it right in front of me now. So
There it is.
Thank you.
all right, can everybody see the workbook now?
Yes.
Yep.
And if I could just recommend, let's review everything that was talked about tonight. I mean, you can quickly review other things, Joe, but I mean, obviously, we're gonna talk about school items tomorrow night. And then we have plenty of time after that to dig into other things. Just so we don't go too long tonight. But let's definitely review and go over if anyone has any questions about everything that Dennis and Chris talked about. Go ahead, Joe, sorry.
All right, so I'll do the Reader's Digest version. So I'll just quickly touch some of the things. So some of the things that we did not talk about that are highlighted here in the red. So the exterior column, painting and repointing the Civic Center, we're gonna pull that for now. If you remember last year, we put some money together that was actually to do the balusters on the roof. And we had decided that there was a question on whether or not the floor under the gym was hot. And we did not know if we were gonna need more money for asbestos abatement. So the committee called the repairs Civic Center improvements. So depending on where the balusters come in, we should have some extra money to do some of the grout work. And then Chris's group will take the painting through their operating budget. So to put that in the plan, it wasn't gonna work. The hot water heater at the Dole Bear that we talked about, that is leaking. and is repaired and fixed. The garage door became a need to have on the short term, so we're taking care of that as well. We're also going to take care of the split system at the Greenwood. The girls' toilets at the Greenwood School, again, Matt, our plumber, has enough stock to avoid basically half the cost. He just needs to buy the toilets and a couple things related to the flanges. So that project reduced by 10,000. The electrical panel at Town Hall was a new request, but that is something that we're going to be doing now too. So that's zeroed out. Buell School, I will get a definite answer on the long-term plan for that building. The only other thing we talked about that we didn't talk about tonight is the road paver. That's just something from my highway group. Obviously, our focus is on the streets. I think town meeting certainly got that point across by giving us $10 million in funding. So this is something that our group wants to purchase so that we can start doing our own milling and filling of our own trenches. This machine will go up to about 7 feet wide. It'll take just a little over half a regular lane of traffic and should handle every asphalt sidewalk in town that we have. I also pulled the cremation garden. This is something definitely that we're going to need based on space, but given the year and the timing, I didn't feel that it was appropriate to include this in this year. You know, maybe in the future, depending on how the financials, if that comes back or it becomes, you know, a slightly larger expansion project where we do
Joe, that, how accurate is that road paver number?
you know, cremation garden plus a little bit more.
It just seems low for a 7 or 8 foot paving machine.
So it's only a 4-foot box, Frank, but the screed on the back hydraulically extends.
Oh, is it something that's pulled by a trailer?
Yeah, so this is something that you'd see like this wouldn't pave your driveway. If it had to, it could, but
I got you. So it's not a self-operating paver. It's a trailer.
oh no, it's a self-operating paver. You tow it to the job site on the trailer. It's not a pull box, if that's what you're asking.
Oh, okay. It just seemed that number just seems low.
I'll share with you for the next time. I'll actually give you the cut sheet that we got from the manufacturer.
No problem. No problem.
We mentioned last time about the tier 3 school requests. I think basically it was to see what the number got to because it had a significant amount of playgrounds in there.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to, the ADA transition plan.
Oh, yep, I'm sorry.
We covered, all right.
So that stayed in. I think when Steve joins us, he's going to speak to that a little bit. This is something, if it doesn't go through capital in this stage, we'll probably be putting a warrant article in the town meeting for.
What is it?
So this is an audit of every building in town and every intersection.
It's a disabilities, is it a disabilities audit? Is this the American Disabilities Act?
Exactly. So basically
Okay.
what this is a large scale capital plan development that will give us essentially, you know, however many years based on what the need is of punch lists to work through. So where our pull weights on the doors are deficient, where a whole bunch of things are deficient, it accomplishes 2 things. It helps us because we've identified issues and we're working towards fixing them. So hopefully if the Department of Justice was to inquire with us, you know, why said condition exists, we can say that we've identified it, it's out, you know, 2 years, but it's on our capital plan. And then this also does the same thing on the roadways. The key with this is by having this plan done, this puts us in position to unlock a whole bunch of grant funding that right now we're not eligible for. So that's kind of the emphasis behind that, but that would be public buildings in the town, any hardscapes for walkability. Sorry about that.
No, it's all right.
So again, the playgrounds, I left the miscellaneous section alone. You know, Bob tomorrow will speak towards the scoreboard cage. I think Chief Sullivan and Captain Hudson represented pretty well as far as the radios and the fire alarm. The GIS application and development, that was something that we wanted to do last year with my group and the assessors group to kind of get that infrastructure for us up to a place that's not paper and in the Stone Age. We funded it half last year. You remember we put 35,000 to it. This is representing a full phase 2 of the 3 phases we needed to get up to where we wanted to be. Sea containers are still in there. One of the sob stories, I guess I'll have to say, is that in our barn, we had to structurally weight rate some mezzanines. And I unofficially know that at least 2 of them need to come down, losing a whole bunch of storage on it. So these are basically the sea containers that you see on the back of tractor trailers, and they're going to basically become storage sheds for us to put some of our equipment and some of our stock in where we have it elevated now that has to come off. In the IT section, the badge readers are pulled just because it was a tier 3 priority for schools. And again, just under the thinking that we're trying to get this number to somewhere around 2.5 million just to see what that looked like for requests. In the sewer division, nothing changed in the enterprise there. We have to replace a large 4 or 5 inch pump this year. And then also an annual article for us is some sewer improvements. On the water end of things, pretty similar to the ADA study, we have to do a risk reduction and emergency plan study. We identify potential weak spots in our watershed area, and then we have to start budgeting for projects and accomplishing fixing those. And then some system improvements. This number is a little higher than the average. This is going to include some water main piping that we need to do to the treatment plant and a diffused aeration system underground. One of the things that we have going on every year is that iron and manganese naturally in a lake come up, and we actually have to shut down production for a while. So by taking on a project to aerate the lake, we can actually combat some of the water stratification and keep ourselves pumping longer. Any residual from that, we would do hydrant replacements and other miscellaneous pipe work. That was the kind of the quick, fast abridged version through it. Does anybody want to stop and talk, or?
Were we gonna have, IT come and chat with us? I apologize, I forgot.
Yeah, so Todd was invited tomorrow. He knows
Okay.
about, he's still trying to get a more accurate number on the projectors with the IT folks at the schools. Todd will more than likely be joining us tomorrow, and then he said he'll come back to the next meeting after that if need be, but he's hoping that when he comes tomorrow, he'll bring some good news with him. The only folks that we haven't seen, I don't necessarily know if we have to, but we can throw the invite out there, was the library. But you know,
Yeah, no, we chatted about the library at the last meeting. I thought we were all agreed that we didn't need an on-demand visit for that.
So I think outside of that, we have the schools and IT tomorrow, and then it would be anybody else that the committee would want to have in for a second time.
Not at this point.
Is there anything that anybody sees, you know, tonight that they definitely think that we can remove?
So, I'll just, the BMS, the building management system.
Yeah.
I mean, I get the problem, but 100 grand for that seems excessive. I don't know if you want to take a deeper look at that. And even bearing, I believe you me, I get the heartache of having multiple vendors. But maybe if you can phase $1 billion, you know, do something like start with a vendor and pull one building in, and then the next year pull another in. Those are just kind of my immediate thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, that number I think could stand to be worked on. The other number I think where we're probably going to pick up a little bit of savings is I think that there's room in the senior center boilers to actually reduce that. Hesitant to commit to saying what I think the number might be until I see it on paper, but I think that there's a savings there as well.
All right.
There is the potential for the rubber roof in town hall potentially to be done this year. We need to see a couple of things first related to the roofing account, but luckily, the snow has been kind to us. We weren't shoveling very often on our roofs, so that could be a last minute pull.
So, and I apologize that I forgot the limit for a warrant article. Does the crane kind of meet the warrant, the crane and or plow meet the warrant article criteria?
So in my experience here, typically the only vehicles that we put towards warrant articles have been fire engines.
Sure.
But we're also spending somewhere over $600,000 to do that. I think that level of investment needs, a bigger borrowing than what you pay through, a financing company.
Well, here's the problem though, is that you're making the case that you really need these three vehicles, but you're increasing you're increasing the lease spending by basically 140,000 over the next 5 years, and we're only coming down by 50. So that is, we're carrying the cost of that, and it's going to reduce our ability to spend in the future. It's just kind of what crosses my mind.
Yeah, I totally hear you. That might be a question for Steve when he joins us to see, how that fits into the big picture with what they're working on the warrant.
So Dave, I'd look at it like this: is next year, fiscal year 2022, definitely we're increasing it by that much. But once you hit 23, we're losing a little bit of a chunk. And the fleet requests, obviously from the last couple of years, are way down. And in my opinion, that's because over the last 5 to 7 years, we've been giving them everything that they've needed. So over the next couple of years, I don't, you can't foresee anything, but there's not going to be any major requests of this nature, as far as a crane, a $200,000 crane or $200,000 plow or anything in that area that's going to be needed to be replaced. And once that 5-year lease is up, we might hit something else, but.
Right. Well, that would be the planning, right? If we went with the full lease.
Yeah.
That would be the planning, Joe, we need to see from you and your fleet to basically say, you know what, we are going to be bearing this enhanced lease cost for these next 5 years, but I don't anticipate, barring, some of your vehicles catching on fire, Lord forbid, you don't anticipate having to, add new vehicles to your fleet.
A large request vehicles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, large request vehicles.
Right. So if you look at like even we'll just use the crane because we're talking about it. That should be a 20-year vehicle.
I get it. Yeah, any of the vehicles you're talking about now, but what I'm saying is that I think to get this committee to be comfortable with that, you need to look out at the next 5 to 6 years at what your existing fleet is and kind of start to look and anticipate what basically kind of anticipate, all right, you do have a 5-year window where you're not going to have these new large vehicle costs coming down the pike.
Yeah,
I
can provide that. That shouldn't be an issue. I will say the only thing with the crane this year, when we did defer it, the storm that we had in August, it lost a piston in the engine, so we rented one for a month. So that's probably priority number one for me.
Yeah, you made a good, you make a good case on the crane. I'm not disputing that. I'm just kind of talking about what the financial implication of leasing it will be over the next 5 years.
What I'll do is, we want to see everything basically bigger than a pickup truck. Some of
Yeah.
those, items tend generally, more likely to be leased than not. I'll show you kind of how those fall into the plan and what the realistic timeline for that would be. And then you can kind of see, all right, we have a wave coming maybe between 25 and 30, but from fiscal 22 to 25, it seems like we're kind of over that. Yeah, I'll lay that out and give you something that makes that make a little bit more sense.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Joe, can I throw a curveball out there?
I love it. Go ahead.
Sewer and water division,
Yep.
most part, doesn't look like a lot of requests compared to previous years.
Yep.
But it looks like because of that, maybe you up the system improvement numbers on those departments,
A little bit.
which is fine. What if you, again, I have no idea the implications of this, but what if you took truck number 1318, the Chevy utility body,
Yep.
and split it between the water and sewer, and move that 75,000 down to sewer water? Is that possible, or is that playing with funny money?
No, a little bit of the funny money. So that vehicle is not a function of the water or sewer enterprise, it cannot be paid for by it.
Okay.
So the system improvement money bumping up a little bit. So historically, Rick had always used 50,000.
Yeah.
You replace 3 hydrants, and then you got to do maybe 40 feet of ductile iron at 150, $175 a foot. It doesn't really go very far. So that's just to make sure that, if God forbid we do have to do a 50-foot run of pipe or a 3-gate intersection or a whole bunch of hydrants, that we have enough there. Steve's been really good with everything so far. We just want to make sure that we're using an appropriate amount.
Okay, I'm just looking to move things around so we can get
I-
more
I-
big numbers.
Hey, I totally get it.
What else? The gym floor at the Woodville, I would think that if it was a hazard issue to the kids, that it would be more of an urgent tier 1 issue. It seems more like just a want, especially if it's a tier 2. Should we, is the school department maybe gonna talk about that, or is that entirely a Chris item?
No, that's actually an item recognized by both of them. So
Okay.
um,
We can listen to them tomorrow as well.
yeah, Bob will be presenting on that.
Okay. Anybody else have any specific items that we talked about tonight?
I'm fine.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, wait, before you do
Sorry.
that, can someone,
Rescinded.
did everyone have a chance to review the minutes from the previous meeting?
Right.
Yes, I move we approve the minutes.
Okay, do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, we get that out of the way. And there was a question earlier on the 3 new requests for the committee. We can talk about that at the, after we've done all our meetings for this year, 2022 plan, because it won't take, the new terms don't take effect till the next year anyways. And besides that, I think that's everything. After we hear from the school tomorrow, I know we have a lot of meetings lined up in the next couple of weeks. We can decide on, if we need to use all of those meetings or not. I was asked about that. We'll see where we are tomorrow. Maybe we can get the number down a little bit more after we hear the school tomorrow night. But again, there's no need to make these meetings last more than 2 hours. So as long as we can keep them around, hour and a half to 2 hours, I don't have a problem with keeping all the meeting dates, but. That's all I have to say. Joe, do you have to finish out with anything?
No, I don't think I have anything unless anybody has any requests for me before tomorrow.
Okay,
Nope. Thank you.
with that being said, anybody? Motion to adjourn?
Reiterate my motion to adjourn.
All right, there we go. Thank you. A second?
Second.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow night.